So if you're in the USA, the home of Traxxas, this is what $400 US gets you. The Traxxas VXL 4x4. No lights, no sway bars, no center diff. You do get a pretty mean brushless system though. Ignore this, I just chopped off the Traxxas thing. But really what I'd like to know is, what's all the fuss about? Why is the Traxxas version of the 110 scale short course truck so much more expensive than the other offerings? I've got a Techno 410 2.0 coming, I've got a Hebeo coming. We've just looked at the Associated Pro4 SC10. We've got a very well used Senton 3S BLX here. There's the Mojave 4S coming. There's the Jumpshot V2, which is about half the price of this thing. So what I'm saying is there's a huge amount of choice for short course trucks in this scale. But in the shed there, I've got a Stampede that was new in 2011, a 4x4 VXL. From pretty much the get-go, it needed the aluminum shock caps because in a crash, the only thing that stops this arm from going further down is this shock, and so the thread pulls out of the cap here and the body comes out. So you get the aluminum ones and they hold better. Now, given I've had Stampedes before, I went and just bought an aftermarket no-name set of sway bars for this Slash. I also went and bought some stainless steel axles because on the Stampede, these and the shock caps were really needed. Now this thing, if you keep it light, I mean it's still not super light, but if you keep it light, it hopefully won't need much more than that. I do expect to need the shock caps and I haven't got them yet. But really what I'd like to know is, why is this $400 when the Pro4 SC10 is $340 and it comes with sway bars and it comes with a center diff and it even comes with lights front and rear. It has mud flaps. The Senton 3S BLX certainly doesn't have the stuff that the Associated has. It's much more of a layout like this one actually, except it's $330 US. $70 is a lot of money to go from that to this. There are other big names out there that are doing very similar things, particularly Armour with the Senton 3S BLX. That's a really similar car to this thing. Stickers aren't put on straight or properly at all. I mean, this is going to get absolutely filthy under here because the stickers are they're bridging the gap. So there's a lot of air under there. I've cut it and pressed it down, but it's still up in the air. I mean, the stickers aren't even on straight. So this is a premium price truck. Some of the screws aren't done up all the way. If I'm going to be paying for something that's, you know, 20% more expensive than the same thing basically from Armour, where's the money going? Certainly you get more in the bag than you do with the other companies. There's foam, body protecting washers to go under the body clips on top to help keep the body intact, and more shock tuning in the form of these, you know, these different size damping collars, I guess. But those cheaper cars I was just talking about actually have threaded shocks, so you can screw down with a thumb screw. You can adjust to your heart's content. You don't need to worry about trying to put these collars in and out to adjust to your preload. This is just kind of a basic offering. Now there's one thing I see here that's changed in the 12 years since I bought a VXL 4x4 from Traxxas, and that is the ESC. These were known to cook themselves, and you had to buy an aftermarket fan if you're going to run 3S on the Stampede at least, because the ESC just wasn't up to it. Part is 3355R. So the ESC has had an update in the 12 years that I can comment on. Certainly the servo hasn't changed. It's waterproof, but they're slow and kind of weak, and they do tend to die, the 2075. One thing that's nice about the Traxxas version though is that it doesn't take a lot of screws to get the front and the rear ends off. So the tub is grey, the black part's both removed. So you've got 4 points, and on the front it's simply 1, 2, 3, 4 screws undone, and this whole front end, the axle, the bumper and the shock tower, that comes off and it mates to this aluminium drive shaft in the back there. It's the same with the rear. There are 2 screws up the top there, and I think they're underneath on the bottom. Yeah, 2 more there, and then the whole rear comes off as well. So it's modular. That's good if you need to service it. And look, anything you run regularly, you're going to need to service. The only thing that this has that the Senton and the Pro4 don't have is a gyro. That's the TSM, Traxxas Stability Management. And there's the expansion possibility as well, because you can stick the Bluetooth module in the back of that thing, and then you can get the GPS unit and all the rest of it. I've gone and bought that stuff for another car, for another Traxxas video I did a while back. That cost me another $200 to get all the bits. The Sky RC gyro, if you wanted to stick one in the Senton, is, let's be generous and say $35. It's not that much, but I paid under $20 for it, US. You're still $50 short of the asking price of this thing. That's if you put the Senton next to this with the gyro. Where's the money going? I've thought about this before I made this video, and the only other thing I can think of for where the money's going is actually to the dealers, and that's not a bad thing. A couple of years back, you may not know this if you're watching in the USA, but for the rest of the world, Traxxas put a trade limit on the rest of the world. So I can no longer buy a Traxxas vehicle from a seller that's not in my region. I can no longer go to RC Mart, for example, and buy Traxxas, even Traxxas parts. The whole Traxxas catalog has to be bought from hobby shops now, unless you go out of your way, such as using like a mail forwarder, like Ship It To. You can still do it, but it ends up costing a similar amount to just buying from the hobby shop. So while this is $400 in the USA, US dollars, this is $525 US dollars in Australia for the same car. Soon I'm going to have 7 or 8 110 scale short course trucks here, and I'm going to do a big comparison of them, but I'm going to do an individual video for each of them. This is the second most expensive thing. The Techno is the most expensive one, but it has a bunch of refinements that this doesn't have. I mean, there's not even a center diff. Why? So we've covered what you get. You get a manual, and you get basically a marketing thing to say, hey, buy all the extra stuff. It's expensive. You also have to use a fairly flat, low profile battery. You can buy risers that will pick this up higher, and you can get ones of these things that come up. I've already given away most of my Traxxas stuff because I didn't actually think I'd buy another Traxxas. It's been a while. This is a 5300 2S battery. I chopped the connector off because I just don't have Traxxas connectors. I've got some aftermarket ones, I don't like them. So the battery retention's actually quite good. The other cars we've talked about use Velcro for the most part, Velcro straps. I find that to be very secure as well. But this is nice. 1.7 inch outer, 2.2 inch inner. That's a split rim design for these tires, which is standard for a short course truck. The wheels and tires are also the standard outer diameter. What are they, 4.6 or something? 4.3 inch outer. I don't know if Traxxas has changed their recipe for their A-arms. You used to have to buy RPM parts for these, definitely in something tall like the Stampede with the bigger wheels. I might find the Slash is more tolerant of bashing, I'm not sure. You have adjustability, you can change where the shocks mount. In my experience, these screws at the top of the shocks work their way out with bashing. Probably not so much with track use, but certainly with bashing they come out. You have adjustable camber on the rear, adjustable toe and camber in the front, plastic axles all around, plastic shafts, and I mentioned I bought metal ones. I'm not going to stick them in yet, we'll see if we need them. I haven't installed the sway bars either, but there are plastic mouldings for the sway bars to go in. And I am curious to see whether a gyro will make up for the lack of a center diff, because certainly the Senton is crying out for it. It's twitchy and hard to keep straight. A gyro would help, but what I found the other day with the Pro4 SC10 from Associated is that center diff makes all the difference. You don't need a gyro. Super smooth. This would be twitchy, which is probably why you get a gyro, right? 4 AA's in the controller. This is probably like my 15th one of these. You have steering trim on one of the knobs, and the other knob will be how, it's also for programming, but it'll be how aggressive the gyro is. So let me show you. All right. So this is Traxxas Stability Management. You can turn it right down on the dial. Nothing. Turn it right up all the way, because it was about 60%. Anyway, there you go. Alright, so that's Traxxas Stability Management. You can see the servo arm doing its thing. I'm going to start with it maybe at 2/3, or on 2S, not 3S. Now this is something that I found the other brands do quite well. They balance the wheels nicely. I mean, that's a lot of vibration, right? Jeez. If this was like $330, $340 like the other brands, it would be a bit more forgivable, but I kind of expect a bit more when it costs more. I'm a basher, not a racer. I'm going to drive this thing. Let's see how it goes. I can't wait to see what the gyro does. Let's do it. Okay, how does it hook up first? Certainly 3500 kV is actually quite good for a vehicle like this. What I like also is that the ESC is actually a bit more immediate than the one in the Pro 10. Now the gyro I just had at 30%. Let's do that again. Gyro's off. Yeah, it's a lot harder to keep straight, isn't it? It's still drivable, but this is the problem with the Senton. With the gyro off, she's a bit all over the place. Now I'm going to try it with the gyro all the way on. So, whoop. I can see it counter steering as we go. I barely put any steering input into that. So it straightened itself right up. Yeah? Look at that. Let me do that again with the gyro off, you'll see the difference. Gyro's right off now. Okay, you ready? It's just all over the place. Same deal. Now I'll do that again with the gyro on all the way. Now we'll try that again with the gyro on all the way. It straightened right up and hit me, but that's my fault. So the gyro clearly works. I'm going to run that back down to about 40%. That's still, in fact, even a little bit less. I don't mind having a little bit of out of control, but I mean, even a little bit of gyro like this is actually quite a lot. I guess what I want to know is, can the gyro make up for the lack of a rear diff? Because the rear diff just made the Pro 4 feel really refined. So far, I think, yeah, it does, actually. Wow. I mean, that was a bad landing, it was still all right. Let me just turn the gyro off completely. It's certainly harder to control. Yeah, I like the gyro on. All right. So, light bashing duties, which is what a lot of people are going to use this for. How is it? I can hear that body rattling away. And do you know what? The nylon body washers it came with probably would help. Didn't have the power for me to accelerate and bring the nose up. I certainly tried. Now remember, this is the $400 car, not the $330 car or the $340 car, or even the $215 HPI. This is the big daddy. Already, the need for the aluminium shock cap is clearly evident because we've already popped the shock out of this. This is what I mean by the wheel. The whole arm can go further down than the shock can reach. The motor's hot, the ESC is pretty hot, and the servo is warm. Screws haven't come loose otherwise, everything looks alright. Really, it's just this, we've got oil up on the, we're going to have oil on the inside of the body too. Yeah, we do. There's a splash of oil inside the body. I'm just going to go fix this and then we'll punch it around the track and see what we think. Now, I just went to get my wrench, and I also forgot to mention this comes with a larger pinion. That's if you want to go faster. I also brought down the washers I was talking about for the body, so we'll use them. So if you want to go faster, use a 3S battery in the stock gearing instead of this bigger pinion. If you want to go faster again, then you put the bigger pinion in, but certainly on the old electronics, heat used to be a problem and that would kill the ESC in fairly short order. Oh, hang on, this is meant to be compressed when it gets done up. And the actual alu caps, they're not that expensive. Like, I don't know why it doesn't just come with them. It clearly needs them. Is that done up? So it's a little disappointing, you know, that I've got to do this 5 minutes in. I've bashed with all the other short course trucks I've got here, and this hasn't happened on any of them, and they're all cheaper. Again, I could buy 2 HPR jump shots for the price of one of these. If you have any idea why these cost so much, I'd be happy to hear your comments. If your answer is it's because people pay it, then, I mean, that's not unreasonable. I'm going to use them because already the body's deforming. So let's give this body every chance. Now you could also reinforce the body underneath. Do it Kev Talbot style and put you put the gyprock tape and then shoe goo. That'll help protect it. All right, back in business. I've repaired the rear. We'll go this way first. We've got the washers on the body to help protect it because 5 minutes of running and already the body's taking damage. That gyro is working. Gyro's at 40%. You just saw a lap of it with that on. Now I'm gonna turn the gyro off. I'm not a good driver, I'm a pretty poor driver. I'm passable. Oh, there, so gyro would have saved us there. This twitchiness comes from not having a center diff, partly. It lifted a wheel there too, you notice that? Sway bar would help. Yeah, it's lifting the inner front wheel around corners. Gyro would have helped, center diff would have helped more, honestly. We're on 2S, 5.3 amp brick, and she's a bit of a handful. Gyro, we're going to try all the way up now. I'm looking to see if that inside wheel gets lifted. This is too much. It actually makes it worse. So we're going to just drop it back where I had it, 40%. Do the same lap. All right. Yeah. Ouch. Come on, Craig. So it's still lifting the inside wheel, but it's keeping us straight. That gyro is making all the difference. I was curious about this because the center diff on the Pro4 SC10 was very elegant. Having a center diff is really the way to go because the gyro is like a band-aid. It's covering the problem. And it's doing a passable job, I must admit. I haven't sold many RC cars. I actually like to keep them. But one of the ones I had was a Stampede VXL 4x4, and over the years I dumped money into that thing, eventually turning it into a Slash with massive trencher tires. So I made it into like a Slash Ultra Basher. But I got rid of it because even with all the money, we had Techno center shaft and I had MIP axles, I kept breaking it. And I had the best of the best aftermarket stuff in it, but I couldn't stand breaking it. I sold it, hang on. Yeah, I sold that thing and I got an Armour Creighton and never looked back. And I bashed with that for a season or two just fine. I did a few upgrades on that thing, but I just don't have to do anything to it. I've already got oil all over my hands from this thing. And you'll notice also it's rolled quite a few times already. The sway bars will really help with that. I know from experience with the Stampy. That's actually what I was expecting, which is why I've already bought the sway bars. Now you might fairly say, hey Craig, you're a bit of a rubbish driver. That's true, But here's the thing. You might say I'm a bad driver, and you'd, okay, fair enough. But how come I have to keep turning this thing over when I don't have to keep turning the other short course trucks over? How come this thing keeps lifting the inside wheel? You know, why do I have oil all over my hand? Okay, after action report. I've got oil all over my hands. I've stuck 4 of the 8 included washers under the body clips here because the body was falling apart after the first 5 minutes of driving. Lexan does that, and yeah, I mean, I was driving it on jumps and stuff, so I was bashing rather than track driving. It's fair enough, right? But a lot of people that buy this are going to be doing that too, right? The gyro certainly helped, but this, I mean, this is a really thin, flimsy body too. It's not as nice as the other, especially, it's not as nice as the Senton, which is actually thicker. Shock oil is all over the place, because the back right popped off after a heavy landing. I've got some stones inside the drive shaft because they get in through that hole there. I've got some little gravel and I could hear it grinding away while I drove. And even with the gyro on, this thing flipped over so much it was frustrating to drive. If it was 330, 340, even 350 with the gyro, for what you get, yeah, I mean, that would make it reasonable. You know, it's the same as the others. And the only thing I'd say if this was any other brand would be, hey, replace the shock caps with metal, then that problem won't happen. But it's not $330, $40, $50, it's $400 US, or 520 something in Australia, US. I just don't see the value. I told you I'd have a bit of a moan on this video, and first world problems, right? Like, I get it. I'm not complaining because I want to have a moan. I'm complaining for you. I'm complaining because there are other brands that do this better for less money. So if our focus is just on that, I think it's actually reasonable to say, hey, come on, Traxxas, you know, update your design, or at least throw in some stuff that you know this thing needs, like sway bars at each end and your shock caps. And then the $400, yeah, that's much easier to swallow. Put a center diff in it and call it like an ultimate. If they have an ultimate edition that has a center diff, because I don't know, I haven't looked at anything really to do with this kind of platform for 12 years or so. And I mean, you guys who watch me regularly, you know this. I come in fresh. I don't like to watch reviews. I don't like to read about it. Like, I love to read, but I don't like to read about whatever I'm looking at. I want to give you my impressions based on my experience and my very broad, just time in the hobby. I've been playing with cars for 30 odd years. This, like, I'm not a racer, but I'm an electronics expert, and I do, like, I can engineer stuff. And I can tell you when something could be fixed. Traxxas could make this better. Surely, if I can buy shock caps discreetly for like $20 aftermarket, surely they can include that in their $400 asking price, if nothing else. I still had fun with this today. It's not a bad car. It's just too expensive for what it is. Things that went well. The motor went well. The ESC didn't get particularly hot. The servo got warm, but it all acted within spec, and I have no complaints about that. I actually enjoyed myself today. Nothing wrong with this either. Programming it is actually a pain in the butt, but there are cheat sheets online, and there is the Bluetooth module that makes it a lot easier. But out of the box, you don't really need to do anything except trim the steering and maybe play with the TSM. I'd suggest 30 to 40% will be about right for, you know, not overly correcting. And you'll have a good time. If you're on a budget, your money's possibly better spent elsewhere. The Pro4 SC10, really enjoyed. I'm going to build a Hobeo SC10 very soon. I've got the new Techno 410 version 2 on its way. And also there is the Mojave 4S coming. All three of those vehicles have center diffs. The SC10 from the other day, the Pro4 SC10, also has a center diff. But if you like this more simple thing without a center diff, and you like the twitchy kind of performance, buy a Senton 3S BLX. That's very similar to this, but it's a bit tougher. It's got a nicer, tougher body. The only thing that's lacking is a gyro, but you can stick a gyro on that $330 Senton for less money than you have to pay for the $400 Slash. Enough said, throw me a like, thank you for watching, and remember, there are lots of different variants of the Slash, and also I'm not bagging the Slash. There's a reason it's super popular. I just think it's just too expensive. That's all I'm saying. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate you watching to the end. I mean, you guys in particular, thank you. Well, I'll catch you next time on RC-TNT. Cheers.